Hello, I'm Julian Northbrook from doingenglish.com, and in this video I'm going to give you the top 3 reasons why people's English fails to improve even when they live in an English-speaking country, and what to do about it. I live in a foreign country and speak English every day, comes a question. But I don't feel that my level of language becomes better. What should I do? This is very, very common, and indeed it's probably the most common thing that my clients come to me with. Just in the last year or two, I've had someone from the UK who lived there for a year, didn't see any progress. Someone who lived in the UK for 10 years, same situation. Someone who lived in the US for 17 years, same situation. Canada, New Zealand, Australia. I think the person who lived in Australia lived there for 6 years, same situation. You get the idea. The thing is, living in an English-speaking country is not sufficient to improve in and of itself. It's usually good enough to help you to keep your level, to keep what you've got sharp. But it isn't really enough to push beyond that. And there are several reasons why. And as I said, in this video I'm going to give you the top 3. The first one is quite simply that using your English is only one side of the coin. But most people think that that's all they've got to do, and therefore what happens is they just use English, whether they're speaking at work, in social situations, or whatever situation it is that they are. And that's great for building fluency, but not for actually adding to their language, to the language that they have, or for actually improving the quality of the language that they have. Always remember that crap English said fast is still crap English. And unless you're actually putting time and effort into learning the language, growing your English, and actually changing the quality of your English, well, that's all you're going to do. You're just going to speed up what you've got. And if that ain't very good in the first place, well, saying it faster won't make it better. The second reason is that it's pretty easy to create a bubble of your native language and native culture, really in any country that you go to. And I used to see this all the time in Japan. People from English-speaking countries who never needed to speak a single word of Japanese, because they'd created this bubble around themselves where they worked in English, they made friends of English speakers, and you get the idea, and there's a good chance that you do this in your own first language, living in, say, the UK or wherever it is that you're living. We make friends with people from our own country, our own language, our own culture, and if we don't work, we probably spend all our time in the house watching TV, listening to the radio in our own culture. And even if we do work, we may be working in our first language anyway, or we may just be having the same conversations every single day and never actually really going beyond that. The guy who was widely acclaimed to be the world's top telephone salesman, he's actually dead now unfortunately, Stan Ballou, once said that most people, although they say things like, I've got 10 years sales experience, what they actually mean is they've got 1 year's sales experience repeated 10 times. And that is not the same thing. And this is the same with English as well. If you have one conversation and you have that conversation every single day, that doesn't mean that you've got all this experience speaking English. It just means that you've got one experience that you've just repeated again and again and again. You actually need to get out there into the world and do stuff with your English. None of this practice rubbish. None of this I'm speaking to practice, because that's bullshit. I mean, actually getting out and using your English and doing things in the real world is necessary in order to grow as an English speaker. The third reason is quite simply that the higher your English level gets, the more intensive your learning and using needs to be in order to see any kind of improvement with it. So, for example, you move to an English-speaking country, say the UK, and on your first day there, you meet your new next-door neighbour. And in that situation, it's all new, it's all exciting, and you're nervous because you don't want to say something stupid. You don't want to embarrass yourself in front of this new person. You don't want them to think badly of you. Because of this, it's a high risk, high intensity, high pressure situation. And risk triggers all kinds of things in our head, this state that we call flow. I've actually got a book coming out on Kindle next month, I believe, about this. But in that situation, you are going to improve a lot and you're going to learn from this situation because it is such a high risk, high pressure situation. But then when you see that same neighbour every single day and probably have the same conversation in the corridor of your building or wherever every single day, well, it very, very quickly becomes easy, very quickly becomes comfortable, and the risk disappears. And so you stop learning from the situation and you stop growing based on that situation. And as I said in the previous point, having the same conversation with the same person multiple times doesn't mean you've had many conversations. It just means you've had one conversation repeated multiple times. This, incidentally, and this is a slight digression, but it's very relevant, is why tutors, conversation teachers, conversation exchange partners tend to be very, very ineffective for actually improving your English in the long term, because the first conversation you have is like, wow, that was really hard. And then very quickly, you're just comfortable with each other and you're chatting about the weekend every time, and it doesn't really help you at all. Anyway, those are the top 3 reasons why this happens. What should you actually do to improve? Well, simply put, in order to really improve your English, 2 things have to happen, and they have to happen repetitively, or rather, I should say, iteratively. You've got to learn the language. You've actually got to put some time into studying English and growing your knowledge of the English language. And that means the phrases and expressions, the chunks of English, but also what I call the dynamics of conversation. That is, the things that you actually do with your language and the way that you construct your conversations. And you've got to get out into the real world and actually do things using the language and the knowledge that you've just learned. Notice that I say use, not practice. Forget about that practice rubbish. If you've got time to waste on that, get out there and actually do something which is going to help you in your life instead of this pointless speaking to practice. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I digress. Improving really is as simple as that, but both of these steps are 100% necessary. You can't skip one of these. You can't skip straight to the using stage and expect your English to improve, because if you ain't putting anything in there, well, you ain't getting it out either. And you can't just learn the language and never use it and expect it to become a real skill that you can actually use in real life, because again, both of these things are necessary. Of course, one warning here, make sure that the things you are learning are actually high quality samples of English, that you're not just studying pointless grammar rules or memorizing vocabulary that you'll never need, because ultimately if you're learning the wrong thing, well, it's all a waste of time anyway. Make sure that you've got some high quality materials that are really going to help you. Check this video out here for a discussion on what makes for good materials. Should you be using real stuff designed for native speakers or materials designed for English learners? Both have advantages. Again, check out this video for more on that. Of course, also if you have attitude problems, problems with your confidence, you're shy, that's also going to be an issue and you've got to overcome those. For this particular person asking this question, I don't think this is a problem, because the person said they are speaking English every day anyway, just they don't progress even though they do that. So in this case, I don't think that's really a problem. But I hope that helps. I send daily tips for speaking better English to your inbox every single day. Head over to doingenglish.com and sign up for my free daily emails every day at around 8 a.m. Island time. An email from me is going to hit your inbox and it's going to be packed with all kinds of ideas, tips and advice for mastering the English language fast. Again, head over to doingenglish.com, stick your email address in the box provided, and I'll see you at 8 a.m. Island time tomorrow. This is me, Julian Northbrook, signing out from another video. Bye-bye.